why you don't look shredded even after you've lost weight. Sean here from Fit Fusion Brotherhood. I own a gym for 10 years. I've coached thousands of clients, and one of the most frustrating things is when you work your ass off, you feel like you're training hard and eating the right way, you lose weight, but you're still not happy with the way you look. So if you're feeling this way, you're not alone. It's very, very common for guys to lose weight but still not feel like they're any closer to their goals. So we're going to break down some of the potential reasons why this is actually happening and what you can do about it to make sure that you reap the rewards of all the hard work you're putting in and end up with that shredded physique. So first off, it's important to understand the difference between weight loss and fat loss. Just because the number on the scale goes down doesn't mean that it's strictly fat. Depending on how you train and how you eat, you might be losing a little bit of fat and a lot of muscle, or just water weight. There's a bunch of different ways the scale can go down that doesn't accurately reflect whether or not you're progressing towards your goals. So one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of guys make when they're trying to lose fat is that they sacrifice muscle. So by sacrificing muscle, you might lose weight pretty quickly. You might even lose some fat, but because you've lost muscle, you're not going to get that shredded looking physique that you want. And you're actually going to make things way harder on yourself in the future. So some mistakes you can make in order to lose muscle while you're trying to lose fat would be over dieting. So just going way too low with the calories. Yes, the fat will go down, but so will that lean tissue. Number two would be an overemphasis on cardio. Cardio is great, but if you're doing a lot of cardio and little to no strength training, while you're in a calorie deficit, there's a very good chance that you're going to lose muscle as well. And then such simple things as not prioritizing recovery, not getting enough protein. These things can also contribute to muscle loss during your weight loss journey, which you want to make sure does not happen. Because the end goal when you're trying to get shredded is to try to maintain as much muscle as you already have while you lose fat. So mistake number one, confusing weight loss with fat loss, and as a result, sacrificing muscle. The second reason, very obvious, but a lot of people still don't necessarily think it's the truth, and that is still having too much body fat. You might have done a really good job of losing weight and even dropping your body fat, but it is important to realize that you're actually not going to see that muscle definition until, depending on your genetics, for most guys, it's going to be around 12 to 15% body fat. So if you're still above 15, even if you've made great progress, you can't really expect to see a ton of muscle definition. You can't expect to see the abs really pop or the veins, that vascularity. That's going to start to come out when you're lower in the body fat. Okay, so just because you've lost fat and you're doing a great job doesn't mean that you're quite yet at that point where that definition is going to start showing. The good news is you're on the right track. It's just a matter of keep doing what you're doing. If you notice that you're maintaining the muscle and you're still losing body fat, sometimes you're just not there yet, especially if you started with a relatively high body fat. So if you're a big guy, if you know maybe genetically you just have a bigger frame and you have a tougher time getting lean, it just means it's going to take a little bit longer. It doesn't mean that you're doomed or that you're doing everything incorrectly, but the average guy is around 20% body fat, which isn't even close to showing off those abs or really getting that definition that you want. So number two, very common, very obvious here. You may be progressing, but you still have too much body fat. Number three, and this is a very important one, is being under muscled. So it's one thing to have too much body fat. It's another thing to have not enough muscle. So most of us are so obsessed with these fat loss phases because you can start to see more muscle definition as you lose fat. Whereas when you're actively trying to build muscle, it almost seems like you're going in reverse, right? You start to add more fat when you're trying to minimize that. So here's the general rule of thumb. Remember before I said, if you're trying to lose fat, your goal is to minimize the amount of muscle you lose and maximize the amount of fat that you lose. When you're trying to build muscle, it's the opposite. You're trying to minimize the amount of fat that you gain and maximize the amount of muscle that you gain. And this doesn't happen accidentally. So you have to dedicate specific phases in order to build muscle. If you're always focusing on getting lean, dropping fat, that's great, but you're going to have a very limited amount of progress that you're able to get to. Even if you're doing everything right, even if you're maintaining the muscle that you already have, you're weight training, you're having your protein, you're recovering, you're doing all these things, if you're not taking time to actively build muscle, you're never going to get to that genetic potential that you're looking for. And then what ends up happening is you're going to end up getting some of that either skinny fat physique or just straight up skinny physique. So building muscle is frustrating. It takes time. It's really difficult to do for a lot of guys, but it's very important that you dedicate some specific time to build muscle if you feel like you already don't have a solid frame. So of course, building muscle takes 3 things. Number 1, strength training, but also progressive overload within that, meaning you have to actually challenge yourself at the gym, lifting heavier, going higher reps and sets, focusing on time under tension, and also training the correct way, using big compound movements, working big muscles and lots of muscles. Number 2 is nutrition. So you actually have to take in more calories than you're burning out, kind of the opposite of what you're trying to do about your fat loss. So your nutrition has to take in a lot of food, and it has to be nutrient dense and high protein to help build that muscle. And then number 3 is recovery. So whether that's sleep, taking days off, making sure you're getting good food, controlling stress, all of those things as well. But this is probably the most common one for most guys, especially ambitious guys who are always looking to just drop fat and get shredded and want to show off their abs. You can only get so far there. But if you don't have enough muscle to begin with, you're very limited with your progress. So number 3, and probably most importantly, you're under muscled. And then number 4, this one's probably the least common and honestly the least concern for most people. That would be if you feel like you have inflammation or you're feeling bloated all the time. The reason I say this is the smallest deal, not the biggest deal, is because for most people, it's kind of transient. It comes and goes. So sometimes you'll feel bloated, sometimes you'll feel inflammation, and usually it depends on your lifestyle habits. Now, if it's a chronic thing, if you're feeling like this all the time, go get it checked out, right? Go to a doctor, make sure you get that under control. But if you have periods where you're feeling bloated or inflamed, it's usually a result of some lifestyle changes. Maybe your routine has switched up a little bit. So quite a few things can play a role if you feel like you're just bloated all the time or even just inflamed. It can be sleep patterns. So if your sleep patterns are all over the place, maybe some days you're sleeping really well, other days you're just not getting any sleep, or if you're perpetually under sleeping is never a good thing. Being stressed out all the time can also play a role in inflammation. Both of these things, stress and sleep, can increase the hormone cortisol, which is going to help kind of store fat, especially around that belly region, which may give you the illusion that you're just not progressing. So you need to get those things under control. When it comes to bloating, it can even just be as simple as having a diet that's either really high or really low in fiber. So if your fiber intake's really low, your digestion's going to suck. And then if you suddenly start to take in a ton of fiber, your body's going to have a really tough time breaking that down, and you're going to feel bloated all the time as well. So having that under control, especially if it's consistent, can help. It can be having a lot or a little veggies, a lot or a little protein. All of these things within your diet can play a big role in how you feel as well. And again, the good news here is usually it's transient. It comes and goes. If you're feeling like this all the time, get it checked out. Otherwise, just take a look at your lifestyle habits, things that aren't necessarily directly related to your training and your fitness, but also kind of how you live day to day, and try to be really consistent with those as well. All right, so if you're not feeling shredded even after losing weight, it's very common. Don't freak out. Usually there's relatively easy points that you can look at and progress from there. You're either confusing weight loss with fat loss, and you're sacrificing some muscle to lose some fat, which is always a bad trade-off. You might still have too much body fat. So you might be losing weight, losing fat, but it's still a little bit too high and you have to continue down that path. Or you may have not enough muscle, in which case you have to kind of shift gears, focus on building muscle first so that you can build that frame and then cut down and lean out later on. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do like videos like this, do us a huge favor, like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.